Cadet Zura Nakamura kept her eyes forward as the formation marched across the academy courtyard, boots striking concrete in perfect unison. The September morning air carried the sharp scent of freshly cut grass and diesel fumes from the motor pool. Around her, upperclassmen barked corrections at the newest class of cadets, their voices cutting through the rhythmic sound of marching feet. "You call that posture, freshman?" Cadet Sergeant Phillips stepped closer to Zara, his breath hot against her ear. "My grandmother stands straighter than you, and she's been dead for 10 years. Zara maintained her forward gaze, spine rigid, hands positioned precisely along the seams of her dress gray uniform. The fabric felt foreign against her skin after months of civilian clothes, though muscle memory guided her movements with an ease that she carefully kept hidden. "Look at this one," Phillips continued, circling her like a predator. "Thinks she could just blend into the background. Thinks nobody will notice her if she keeps quiet enough." The formation continued its march toward the mess hall, where the familiar sounds of clattering trays and shouted orders awaited them. Zara had learned quickly that silence was her best defense here, that drawing attention only invited more scrutiny from cadets who seemed to thrive on breaking down the newcomers. The mess hall erupted in the controlled chaos of 400 cadets finding their seats. Zara balanced her tray of scrambled eggs and toast, scanning for an empty spot among the long wooden tables. The air hung thick with steam from industrial coffee urns and the constant chatter of morning conversation. "She's the one I was telling you about," whispered Cadet Morrison from the table beside her. "The little mouse who thinks she's invisible." Zara settled into her seat, keeping her movements economical and precise. Years of conditioning had taught her to assess every room she entered, noting exit points and potential threats without appearing to do so. The mess hall had 4 main exits plus 2 emergency doors, overhead lighting that created minimal blind spots, and acoustic properties that would carry sound clearly across the space. "Hey, freshman," Phillips called from across the table. "I'm talking to you." She looked up from her eggs, meeting his gaze with steady brown eyes that revealed nothing of the calculations running through her mind. "Word is you're from some backwater town in Montana," Phillips continued. "Probably never seen anything bigger than a grain silo before coming here. Think you can handle real military training, farm girl?" The other cadets at their table leaned forward, anticipating entertainment. Zara took a deliberate bite of her toast, chewed thoughtfully, and swallowed before responding. "I'll manage," she said simply. The obstacle course stretched across the academy's eastern field like a mechanical serpent, its wooden barriers and rope climbs glistening with morning dew. Zara stood in formation with her platoon, watching upperclassmen demonstrate proper technique on the parallel bars with exaggerated theatrical movements. "This is how real soldiers move," Phillips announced, swinging effortlessly from bar to bar. Not like some amateur who learned everything from YouTube videos. Instructor Martinez paced behind the assembled freshmen, clipboard in hand. "Today, we separate the pretenders from the contenders," he called out. "Anyone who can't complete this course in under 8 minutes gets to run it again after dinner." The first group launched forward at his whistle blast. Zara hung back, observing the other cadets as they struggled with the rope wall and stumbled through the tire run. Their movements were enthusiastic but wasteful, burning energy on unnecessary flourishes rather than efficient technique. When her turn came, she approached the first obstacle with measured steps. The 8-foot wall required a simple vault that she executed with fluid precision, her boots barely scraping the wooden surface as she rolled over the top. "Lucky," Morrison muttered from behind her. Zara continued through the course with the same controlled efficiency, each movement calculated to conserve energy while maintaining speed. The tire run became a dance of precise footwork, the rope climb a matter of proper hand, positioning, and leg leverage. Zara crossed the finish line with 3 minutes and 47 seconds on the timer, her breathing controlled and steady. The other cadets stared as she walked calmly to the water station, showing none of the exhaustion that marked their own faces. "That's impossible," Phillips said, checking his own stopwatch. "Nobody runs it that fast on their first try." Instructor Martinez approached with raised eyebrows, studying his clipboard. Cadet Nakamura, where exactly did you train before coming here? Zara accepted a paper cup of water from the station, considering her response carefully. Just stayed in shape back home, sir. Lots of hiking in the mountains. The explanation felt hollow even as she spoke it. Phillips stepped closer, sweat still dripping from his failed attempt at the course. Mountain hiking doesn't teach you to move like that, he said. You look like you'd run that course 100 times before. The other cadets formed a loose circle around them, sensing drama brewing in the afternoon heat. Zara finished her water and crumpled the cup, her movements betraying nothing of the tension building in her shoulders. Maybe I'm just a fast learner, she replied. Martinez made a note on his clipboard, his pen scratching against the paper with unusual force. We'll see about that, cadet. Report to advanced tactical training tomorrow morning. 0600 hours. The words hit like ice water in her veins. Advanced training meant closer scrutiny, more questions, and inevitably more attention than she could afford. The advanced training facility occupied a restricted section of the academy grounds, surrounded by chain-link fencing and warning signs that promised severe consequences for unauthorized personnel. Zara arrived at 05:55, finding the gate already open and a small group of upperclassmen waiting in the pre-dawn darkness. Look what the cat dragged in, Phillips said, his voice carrying clearly in the still air. Our little mountain climber thinks she belongs with the big boys now. Staff Sergeant Chun emerged from the facility building, his silhouette sharp against the fluorescent lighting spilling from the doorway. His reputation preceded him throughout the academy as a former Special Forces operator who had little patience for weakness or pretense. Advanced tactical training is not a game, he announced to the assembled group. Half of you will wash out before the week ends. The other half will wish they had. He gestured toward the building entrance with economical precision. Inside you will find scenarios designed to break down your preconceptions about warfare. Real combat is not the sanitized version you practice in basic training. Zara followed the group through the doorway, her senses immediately cataloging the facility layout. The interior resembled a maze of interconnected rooms, each designed to simulate different combat environments. The air carried the sharp scent of cordite and cleaning solvent. Today we begin with urban warfare simulation, Chun continued. Rules of engagement are simple. Complete your objectives without getting your team killed. The mock urban environment sprawled before them like a miniature city, complete with concrete buildings, narrow alleyways, and strategically placed obstacles that simulated civilian vehicles. Red laser systems mounted on replica weapons would record hits and misses with unforgiving accuracy. Chun divided them into 2 teams of 4, deliberately placing Zara with Phillips and 2 other upperclassmen who regarded her with obvious skepticism. The opposing team took positions in the simulated apartment complex while Chun explained the scenario. Hostage rescue mission, he said, consulting his tablet. For civilians held on the 3rd floor. Extract them within 15 minutes or the exercise ends in failure. Phillips shouldered his training rifle with practiced confidence. Stay behind us, freshmen. Try not to get in the way when the shooting starts. Zara checked her weapon systems automatically, muscle memory guiding her hands through procedures that felt as natural as breathing. The laser sight alignment was slightly off by 2 millimeters. The stock adjustment needed tightening, and the trigger pull required exactly 3 pounds of pressure for optimal accuracy. The signal horn blared across the training ground, echoing off concrete walls. Phillips led their team forward in a standard diamond formation that would have been adequate for training exercises but suicidal in actual combat conditions. As they approached the building perimeter, Zara noticed movement in a second-floor window that the others had missed entirely. Enemy spotter with clear sight lines to their approach route. Contact left, Zara called out, but Phillips was already pushing forward with reckless determination that would get them all killed in real combat. I said stay back. Freshman, he snapped without breaking stride. We know what we're doing. The laser fire erupted from the second-floor window exactly as Zara had predicted, red beams cutting through the morning air like angry hornets. Phillips dove behind a concrete barrier, his face flushed with embarrassment and adrenaline. "How did you see that?" he demanded, army crawling toward better cover. Zara had already identified 3 alternate approach routes that would avoid the enemy sight lines entirely. The drainage tunnel on the east side offered concealment to within 20 meters of the building. From there, a coordinated breach through the ground floor windows would neutralize the spotter before the hostage rescue could begin properly. "We need to flank around through the service alley," she said, pointing toward the route she had mapped in her mind. "Single file, stay below the window line, and someone needs to take out that spotter before we can advance." Phillips stared at her with growing suspicion. Since when do freshmen know tactical terminology? The question hung in the air between them, like smoke from a discharged weapon. Around them, the other team members waited for guidance while precious seconds ticked away from their mission timer. Zara felt the weight of too many eyes studying her movements, searching for answers she could not provide. The mission timer showed 8 minutes remaining when Staff Sergeant Chun called a halt to the exercise. His voice cut through the simulated battlefield with authority that brooked no argument. "All teams, cease fire and report to the briefing room immediately." Zara felt her stomach tighten as they filed out of the urban warfare complex. Chen's expression revealed nothing, but 20 years of reading military faces had taught her to recognize the signs of a superior officer conducting an investigation. The briefing room smelled of stale coffee and dry erase markers. Chun stood behind a metal podium, studying a tablet that contained performance metrics from their exercise. His silence stretched uncomfortably long. "Interesting results today," he finally said, his gaze sweeping across the assembled cadets. "Some of you performed exactly as expected for your experience level." His eyes found Zara in the back row and lingered there with uncomfortable intensity. Others displayed knowledge and tactical awareness that raises questions about their stated backgrounds. Phillips shifted in his seat beside her, the earlier confusion now crystallizing into outright suspicion. The other cadets sensed the tension building in the room like electricity before a thunderstorm. Chin set down his tablet and moved closer to their seating area. "Cadet Nakamura, remain after dismissal. The rest of you are free to go." The words hit like hammer blows. As the other cadets filed out, casting curious glances over their shoulders, Zara found herself alone with a man trained to extract truth from the most resistant subjects. The briefing room felt smaller with only 2 occupants, fluorescent lights humming overhead like mechanical insects. Chin pulled a chair across from Zara and sat down, his movements precise and calculated. "Montana farm girl who likes mountain hiking," he said, consulting his tablet. "That's the story in your file." Zara kept her expression neutral, hands folded in her lap with fingers relaxed but ready. "Yes, sir." Yet somehow this farm girl knows proper breach formations, can identify sniper positions, and moves through tactical scenarios like someone with extensive training. The silence stretched between them while Chun waited for her response. Through the small window, Zara could see other cadets crossing the courtyard toward their next classes, unaware of the interrogation taking place inside. "I watch a lot of military documentaries, sir," she said finally. Chun leaned back in his chair, a thin smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "Documentaries. That's your explanation for tactical knowledge that took me 3 years of special forces training to acquire." His tablet chimed with an incoming message. Chin glanced at the screen, and his expression changed subtly, eyebrows drawing together as he read whatever information had appeared there. "Interesting," he murmured, setting the device aside. "It seems we have visitors coming to the academy today. Unscheduled visitors with very specific requests." The words carried an undertone that made Zara's pulse quicken despite her training. Outside, the distant sound of helicopter rotors began to echo across the academy grounds. The helicopter rotors grew louder, their distinctive twin-blade signature cutting through the afternoon air with mechanical precision. Chun stood and moved to the window, his posture shifting from interrogator to professional soldier receiving unexpected orders. "Those are Black Hawks," he said, more to himself than to Zara. Two of them, flying in tactical formation. Zara remained seated, but every nerve ending came alive with recognition. She knew that sound better than her own heartbeat, had dropped from those aircraft in a hostile territory more times than she could count. The approaching helicopters carried the specific acoustic signature of the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment. Chen's tablet chimed again with urgent priority messaging. His face went blank as he read. Then his eyes snapped to Zara with sudden understanding. "Captain Nakamura," he said quietly, using a rank that officially did not exist in her academy records. The words hung between them like smoke from a discharged weapon. Outside, the helicopters were settling onto the academy's main parade ground, their rotors creating dust clouds that obscured the afternoon sunlight streaming through the briefing room windows. "You're needed now," Chun continued, reading directly from his tablet. "Priority 1 extraction for immediate deployment. Mission classification above my clearance level." Through the glass, Zara could see Academy personnel scrambling to secure the landing zone, while cadets gathered at safe distances to watch the unprecedented arrival of military aircraft on their normally peaceful campus. Zara stood with fluid precision, her entire demeanor transforming in an instant from uncertain cadet to seasoned operator. The careful mask she had worn for weeks dissolved as muscle memory took control of her movements. "How long have you known?" she asked Chun, her voice carrying the quiet authority of someone accustomed to command decisions under pressure. "Since the obstacle course," Chun replied. "Nobody moves like that without extensive operational experience. But your cover orders came from very high up the chain. I was instructed to observe and report only." Through the window, she could see Phillips and Morrison among the crowd of cadets watching the helicopters with wide-eyed amazement. Their earlier mockery seemed like events from another lifetime as uniformed Delta Force personnel emerged from the aircraft. "The mission briefing will happen en route," Chun said, consulting his tablet again. "Hostile territory insertion, time-sensitive extraction of high-value assets. They specifically requested you by name." Zara moved toward the door with the controlled urgency that had carried her through countless similar deployments. Her academy uniform felt strange now that her true identity was exposed, like wearing a costume that no longer fit properly. "What about my cover here?" she asked. Chun shrugged with military pragmatism. "Academy training can wait. Real-world operations take priority, Captain." The helicopter engines were spinning up to departure power as she stepped outside, rotor wash whipping her hair across her face while Academy personnel maintained their respectful distance from the landing zone. The Delta Force team leader approached with tactical gear and weapons that marked him as elite special operations. His bearing carried the confident efficiency of someone who had executed hundreds of similar missions under impossible circumstances. "Captain Nakamura," he said with professional respect, "we have a situation developing in Eastern Europe. 3 missing intelligence assets, hostile territory, narrow extraction window. You know the area better than anyone else on our roster." Zara accepted the gear pack he offered, her hands moving automatically to check equipment and ammunition loads. Behind her, the assembled Academy cadets watched in stunned silence as their quiet freshman transformed into someone they had never imagined. Phillips stood at the front of the crowd, his earlier arrogance replaced by shocked recognition. The farm girl he had mocked was boarding military aircraft that most soldiers would never see in their entire careers. "Time to departure, 2 minutes," the team leader called out above the rotor noise. Zara paused at the helicopter door and looked back at the academy grounds where she had spent weeks hiding her true capabilities. Chun saluted from the briefing building steps while cadets and instructors gathered to witness her departure. The mission ahead would test every skill she had developed through years of specialized training. But for the first time in weeks, she felt the satisfaction of being exactly where she belonged, doing exactly what she had been trained to do. If you enjoyed this story of hidden military courage, Drop a comment about what resonated most with you, or share if you've witnessed similar strength revealed under pressure.